Guys, in this video we are going to learn everything that we need to know about Tailwind CSS colors. I have the documentation of Tailwind CSS colors open here in my browser, and this document basically shows all the predefined color classes in Tailwind CSS which we can directly use. On the left side here we see all the color palette that's available in Tailwind CSS, and on the top we see some numbers that go from 50 to 950. That is basically something that represents the darkness of this shade. So if I go with a red 50, this is going to be this color, and if I go with a red 950, that's the color that's going to be applied. And if we scroll down a little bit, this is where we can see how to actually use these colors in React Vite App. So in this video we are going to try and use these colors in React Vite App, and we are also going to see how to define our own colors in case we are not able to find the color that we want to use in our app. And the last thing that we are going to cover is gradients, how to use color gradients in Tailwind CSS. So guys, stay tuned till the end of the video. Now let's go to VS Code and try to use these colors. So guys, I have a React Vite app open here which is running on my local host. I have already set up a Tailwind CSS in this app. I'll be leaving a link to another video in the description, and that video explains how to set up a Tailwind CSS in React Vite app. In this video we are mainly going to focus on colors. So here in this app I just have a simple div tag which says hello world, and to understand how to use colors in Tailwind CSS we are going to make this div tag into something that looks like a hero section here. So here on the class name I'm just going to give it a height of 100 and I'm going to make it flex. I'm also going to justify all the items in the center, and let's also say justify center, and we can increase the text size here to 5XL. Now we have this section here, div tag, which is having this text that says hello world. And here on the div tag, we are going to try and give a background color to this div tag. And for that, let's go to the documentation here. And here in the documentation, I can pick any color that I want to use. So I'll be picking indigo, and the darkness level, let's go with a 600 indigo. So if we go with the indigo 600, that's the color that's going to be applied. So here on the div tag, let's give it a background color and let's call it indigo. And let's say this is going to be 600. So if I save this and go back to my app, so I should be able to see the color that I've used. And we can also change the color of the text here. So for the text, I can simply use color white. And if I want to be more specific, I can also use something like gray 100, which is going to be very close to white. So basically that's how colors work. First we define the shade that we want to use, and then we define the darkness level on that shade. So here if I increase the darkness to 900, this is going to change it to the darker indigo color. And one more thing that we can do with these colors is like change the opacity. So for example, if I want to make this section a little bit transparent, in that case, I can say the opacity, which I can mention by putting slash. And if I say opacity is going to be 90, this is going to change the opacity and make it a little bit transparent. If I make the opacity as, let's say, 50. So now you can see that this looks like it's changing the color, but actually it's not changing the color. It's actually changing the opacity. So if I make it 80, this is still going to be indigo. I'll go with a 600 because that's a better color to use. So this is indigo 600 with opacity at 80%. That gives it a little bit transparency on the hero section. So now we understand how to use colors in Tailwind CSS. Now let's have a look at how we can make this background as a gradient of two colors. To understand gradients in Tailwind CSS, I'm just going to copy this div tag here. And let's wrap this in a fragment. So basically we got two div tags here, and I'm just going to call it a second section. And that's where we are going to change the background and try to make it as a gradient background. So I'll just remove the original background here, and we are going to try and make it as a gradient background. To make it as a gradient background, we have to pick colors that we want to use as a gradient here. So here in the documentation, I'll be picking this indigo 600, which we are using on the first section. And I'm going to combine this color with a purple 500 and try to create a gradient of these two colors. So let's go back to the app and let's assign a class name here. This time I'm just going to assign my background as gradient, and this gradient is going to go towards right. And I'm also going to define what colors I'll be using on this gradient. So here I'm just going to say from indigo 600. So it's going to be starting with the indigo 600 on the left, and it's going to go towards purple 500. So now if I save this, this is going to create a second section which is having gradient of 2 colors. I can also swap the colors from left to right. If I want to do that, I can say it's going to go towards indigo from purple, and that's going to swap the colors from left to right. I can also change the gradient type here. For example, this gradient is going towards the right. I can also make it go towards the left. So there are different gradient styles. So this is going to start towards the right and go towards the left. I can also make it go towards the top. I can make it go towards the bottom. And I can also be very specific. For example, I can say gradient should go towards top right. So now you can see that how it's changing colors. And then there is also top left. Same way we can also do bottom right and bottom left. Let's try bottom left as well. So these are all the gradient types in Tailwind CSS. So last thing I want to cover in this video is how to apply a custom color that's not defined in the Tailwind CSS color palette. For example, if I'm not able to find some color that I want to use here, I can directly pick it from the color picker. So I'll just open a new tab here and let's search for color picker. And we can pick the color directly here and we should be able to use it in our app. So let's say that I want to use this color in my Tailwind CSS app. In that case, I can just copy this hex code from here and I can go to index.css, and that's where we have already imported Tailwind CSS. And we can use a theme keyword to define our own color here. So I'm just going to start it with the theme keyword, and then we are going to define a color. And let's call this color my own. That's my own color. And we are going to paste the hex code that we have copied from the color picker. So that's how we define our own colors, and we can define as many colors as we want and we can name them as we want. Now let's go back to the app and let's try to change the background of this first section to our own color. So I'll copy this name, that is my own color, go to my app.jsx, and here we are using indigo 600, but I'm just going to replace this background with my own color. And let's save this. And now we can see that our own color is applied on this background, and I can also use it with opacity. Let's give it a 90% opacity, and that's going to make it a little bit transparent again. So guys, that's all I wanted to cover in this video for Tailwind CSS colors. If you found a value in this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.